Tonight on To The Point, the government shutdown.
It's hot down here today on Capitol Hill, but I'd like to say it's not the heat, it's the stupidity.
Democrats and Republicans battling it out with no end in sight. From travel to national parks and Social Security payments, the impacts the shutdown could have on Americans.
I think California voters know that the stakes are very high.
In the redistricting battle, the fight for Congress is escalating in California's proposed redrawn 3rd district. Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alex Bell. Well, we all know tonight the federal government is shut down. As of 12:01 this morning, the government ran out of money after a Democratic-backed spending bill failed. The bill would have extended health care subsidies under the Affordable Care Act and reverse cuts to Medicaid. The GOP-backed stopgap funding measure that would have funded the government for 7 weeks also failed. And now that there is a government shutdown, the blame game continues.
Democrats want to play political games with the lives and the livelihoods of Americans.
Republicans have adopted a my way or the highway approach. They basically have said, take it or leave it with respect to our partisan Republican spending bill.
The last government shutdown took place at the end of 2018, going into 2019. During President Donald Trump's first term, it was the longest government shutdown in more than 4 decades, lasting for 35 days. Now, here's a look at what's still open and operating during the shutdown. Again, this is what's open. The U.S. Postal Service is considered essential work and will continue to operate. Social Security payments will still go out. Medicare is also not impacted. Federal, state, and local courthouses will remain open, but the Department of Justice, which prosecutes federal cases, may postpone some of its litigation. Operations will continue as normal for the regular military, which is considered essential by the federal government. And also, student loan borrowers will have to keep making those payments. The Department of Education says that it will also continue to send out student aid. Now, national parks remain partially open during the federal government shutdown, but nearly 2/3 of National Park Service employees are now furloughed. Most of those remaining are providing essential services like law enforcement, emergency response, and fire suppression. ABC10's Becca Hotbecker joins us now in studio. And Becca, what park actually remains open kind of varies, right?
Yeah, across the more than 400 parks, historic sites, and recreation areas managed by the National Park Service, roads, lookouts, trails, and open-air memorials will generally remain accessible to visitors. But visitor centers and other places typically locked outside of business hours will be closed throughout the entire shutdown.
Call Yosemite National Park and opt to speak with a ranger, and this is the recorded message you'll hear.
Thank you for calling Yosemite National Park. National parks remain as accessible as possible during the federal government shutdown. However, some services may be limited or unavailable. Due to the lapse in appropriations, we are out of office and not authorized to work at this time.
I reached out to the National Park Service to ask what specifically in Yosemite is open and closed. A spokesperson replied with a general statement saying, in part, critical functions that protect life, property, and public health will remain in place, including visitor access in many locations, law enforcement, and emergency response. At other National Park Service sites, this photo from the Associated Press shows Muir Woods National Monument closed, saying trash will not be collected and restrooms are not available. Long lines for this parking lot restroom at Rocky Mountain National Park, with the visitor center and its restrooms closed. The Shark Valley section of Florida's Everglades National Park now closed to vehicles. During the last shutdown in his first term, President Donald Trump ordered parks to remain open with limited staff to clean restrooms and remove trash. But with most employees furloughed, garbage piled up and facilities quickly deteriorated. Last week, 42 retired park superintendents signed a letter to Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum, urging him to fully close national parks in the event of a shutdown to protect them from damage.
It's likely to have some very negative consequences to our national parks.
Former Joshua Tree National Park Superintendent Mark Butler signed the letter.
Not only negative impacts to the resource, but also visitors. There's a lot of public safety issues and concerns that go with leaving parks unattended. Parks don't run themselves. To remain safe and clean and accessible, they need hardworking staff.
There's wider concerns about being able to respond to emergencies and seeing, deaths that could be avoided, or issues like wildfires in our parks. While there's not adequate staffing available.
Mark Rose with the National Parks Conservation Association says National Park Service staffing was already depleted heading into this shutdown.
The National Park Service as a whole had lost over a quarter of its staff since January. And now of the remaining staff, 2/3 are furloughed. So it's definitely a situation where parks like Yosemite were already struggling.
I called the Ahwahnee Hotel in Yosemite National Park. They said they're still very much open and unaffected by the shutdown. And the hotel's website says all Yosemite hospitality operations within the park will remain open. Those include the Ahwahnee Yosemite Valley Lodge, Curry Village, and housekeeping camp. Alex.
All right, Becca, thank you for that. And the government shutdown is also raising concerns over the impact to CalFresh recipients. The executive director of the River City Food Bank says reductions to CalFresh benefits can mean more people relying on food banks. Today also marks the end of nearly $188 million in federal funding for CalFresh nutrition education as part of the big, beautiful bill signed over the summer. Amy Dearlum with CalFresh says that the current government shutdown is creating new uncertainty for the program.
There will be no effect on their CalFresh benefits this month. Beyond that, we really don't know. We're waiting to see how this shutdown, goes out, and if it goes into November.
CalFresh is also warning people of new federal rules tightening work requirements for recipients set to go into effect on February. And if you're traveling soon, here's what you need to know about the potential impacts to airports and the TSA as most of the agency's funding expired. We reached out to the TSA and they told us approximately 61,000 of the agency's 64,000 employees will continue operations. Remaining employees will be temporarily furloughed. TSA warns an extended shutdown could mean longer wait times at the airport. So here's what needs to happen to end the government shutdown. Congress needs to pass and the president must sign appropriations bills to fund the departments and agencies that have been shut down. The president does not have the power to end the shutdown unilaterally. The funding bills follow the exact same legislative process as any other bill, requiring approval from both the House and the Senate before the president can sign them into law. And when we talk about finding the votes, we also need to talk about who holds the power. Because of that 60-vote rule in the Senate, it's not just party line politics. A few moderates are at the center of the fight. Nevada Democrat Catherine Cortez Masto, Pennsylvania's John Fetterman, and Maine Independent Angus King have all sided with Republicans on recent votes. On the GOP side, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski is seen as a potential swing voice, too. And it's not just the Senate. Some House Republicans in tight districts are also pushing for things like protecting ACA subsidies. So their pressure could change the conversation. Bottom line, in a Senate that's divided, even one or two senators breaking ranks could be enough to decide how long this shutdown lasts. All right, let's head back here at home to Sacramento County because they are preparing to shut down its Department of Human Assistance office on 28th Street. Officials say federal funding cuts under the big, beautiful bill are behind the move. So here's what you need to know. The county says closing the high-cost site later this year will help keep resources focused on staff and services instead of infrastructure. The building currently costs nearly $5 million each year between lease and security. County officials say there are no layoffs planned, and more than 200 staff members will be relocated starting in the spring of 2026, with services winding down by mid-year. Once the 28th Street office closes, walk-in services will move to the Research Drive location in Sacramento. The county is asking for a 6-month lease extension through June 2026 to give staff and also customers time to transition. Officials say reducing building costs will allow more frontline workers to stay focused on families and also individuals in need. Now, they also told me today that the federal cost sharing, for CalFresh, it dropped from 50% 20% to 25%, leaving the department with an annual deficit of up to $23 million. The 28th Street location currently handles about a quarter of all in-person visits across the county, but also sees a 61% no-show rate for appointments. Now, we have all of that information on our website if you want to check that out. And also, the Department of Social Services is replacing all magnetic stripe EBT cards with new chip and tap cards. This is to improve security for benefit holders. The transition comes as existing magnetic stripe cards are set to expire between now and the end of the month. Here's what cardholders need to know. You should activate the new card as soon as it arrives. Benefits and PINs will automatically transfer to the new card, and your old card will be deactivated. And you can get help by calling the EBT customer service number. Again, all that information on our website. Still a lot more news to get to. So coming up, the redistricting battle in California. We are looking at District 1, where an incumbent Republican could face a Democratic challenger who says that it's time for new leadership.
This cool and unsettled weather pattern is far from over. We're going to continue with the rain chances tomorrow and could see some thunderstorms as well. We'll take a look at Futurecast after the break.
All right, nothing says fall like a giant corn maze. This maze in Dixon is now open. Visitors can wander through 40 acres of corn stalks in a maze that takes you over 5 bridges. In 2007 and again in 2014, it earned a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's largest corn maze. The pumpkin patch and corn maze is along Interstate 80 and is open through Halloween. Brendan is definitely ready for fall. If you see his desk, you have like leaves up and some nice lights. It's just so relaxing.
Twinkling. Hey, I'm getting in the mood.
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
I'm getting in the mood for fall and for Halloween. Pumpkin spice. Admittedly, I've been drinking pumpkin spice since it came out in late August, though. That's just the kind of guy that I am. And I'm ready for some fall weather, too. And we've definitely had some fall-like temperatures this week, but we haven't had as much rain as what some of the models were potentially suggesting. I'll be honest, these early season systems are very tricky to forecast, and the models don't always do a good job, but right now we do have some very light sprinkles down in the San Joaquin Valley and parts of the Mother Lode, but some clearing skies as well, as we're going to get a little bit of some clearing skies, some little bit of sunshine just before the sun goes down in the capital region and places to the north. Again, 24-hour rainfall totals, not much. Best rainfall totals have been in the coastal range. We did make it to 78 today in Sacramento, 80 in Stockton, 80 in Modesto. That's closer to seasonal for the time of year than where we've been, but we're still running about 5 degrees or more cooler than normal for the time of year. Right now, 75 Sacramento, 77 in Stockton, 74 Modesto. Will start off Thursday morning in the low 60s with a shower chance through the overnight, but also a shower chance as we get into Thursday afternoon. We're going to be in those low to middle 70s tomorrow. We'll also have some thunderstorm possibilities. Let's take a look at Futurecast. We're going to spend a minute here on Futurecast. Some light showers possible through the overnight, becoming a little bit more widespread as we go deeper into the morning hours. So 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. By the time we get towards that morning commute, look at this widespread rain chance. Some pockets of orange there. That'd be some heavier rain, potentially some thunder as well. And I think we're going to have a pretty good chance for some storms actually up in the foothills and near Tahoe tomorrow. That'll continue through the afternoon hours, and then we could even see this continuing into the evening, a brief break through the overnight. By the time we get to Friday morning, some more rain showers, potentially even a dusting of snow up at the highest peaks and passes. So rain chances continuing through Friday before this system finally starts to lift and we go back into the 80s next week, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. Right after the break, the redistricting battle. We're taking a deep dive into Congressional District 3, and incumbent Kevin Kiley is facing some possible challengers. Welcome back in. Let's get into the redistricting battle. On November 4th, voters will decide on Proposition 50 and whether or not to allow the use of newly redrawn congressional maps. Congressional District 3 is among the areas impacted by those newly proposed maps. So we want to show you those right now. So this is what the current district looks like right now. With the proposed maps, you're going to see some changes here, some big changes specifically for District 3. Take a look at that. That's what the newly proposed map would show. Now, this seat is currently held by Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley, now in his second term. As ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen explains, he is already facing challengers.
At this moment, what would you say are the top 2 to 3 issues that matter most to your constituents, and how do you plan to continue to address them if you are reelected?
So I've really been fighting as hard as I can to bring down the cost of living, to get inflation under control by removing regulations, by responsibly reducing spending. Second issue is just making sure we have strong border security, and we've been able to actually achieve a lot in that respect. We went from having the most illegal border crossings in our country's history to now hardly having any at all.
Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley is dedicated to keeping his seat and continuing his work on Capitol Hill. Kiley says he's providing concrete solutions for the challenges in his district.
We are going to clean up some of the traffic jams that you get around the 65-80 interchange. I've secured $22.5 million in a federal grant, so that's money that's a cost that will not be borne by our local taxpayers.
But Kiley has challengers already competing for his seat. Democrat Tyler Vandenberg from South Lake Tahoe. He's a Marine veteran who says he's committed to ending Trump's tariffs, undoing DOJ's cuts, and preserving federal land and national parks from being sold.
I'm aiming to meet people where they are and to meet their material concerns and to help them believe that the government can do good things and it can build a better life for them.
Democrat Heidi Hall is a longtime Nevada County resident and current board supervisor.
I'm a problem solver. I've been a public servant for 3 decades, and for the last 9 years, I've been governing from the Board of Supervisors right here in Nevada County.
So why should voters in this newly drawn district trust you over Kevin Kiley to represent their needs in Washington?
The cuts to Medicaid, to SNAP, the complete decimation of the VA and other federal agencies are directly hurting this constituency. He has not shown up this entire year for a public meeting to actually talk to his constituents, and he has never had the spine to stand up to Trump and challenge him on these policies.
In the spring, Kiley was criticized by his constituents for not holding enough town hall meetings to talk about potential program cuts. In response, Kiley says the cuts addressed wasteful spending.
The reform you see with SNAP is simply saying that states need to do a better job of making sure that those benefits are actually getting to the people who need it. And it's similarly with Medi-Cal. We're saying that people who are enrolled in multiple states, that shouldn't be happening. You should only be enrolled in one state. Or people who are in our country illegally. They shouldn't be taking benefits that citizens who are here legally are entitled to.
Is that what you're trying to say? Is that the benefits would outweigh any cons coming from those impacts?
Well, actually, under the bill, Medicaid spending is actually going to increase through the end of the decade. So there were some proposals that suggested reforming the program in more sweeping ways that would have changed that. I fought against that, and at the end of the day, we ended up with a package that will actually end up increasing Medicaid spending over the next decade.
In August, Kiley introduced a bill to prohibit mid-decade redistricting.
We have so many more important issues we should be focusing on as a country right now. Drawing district lines and tossing communities out of people's districts and putting new ones in, that shouldn't be what we're focusing on right now.
Do you think the president would sign this piece of legislation?
I certainly hope he would, yeah.
To introduce legislation right now that Kiley is doing is pure hypocrisy. When he was in the Assembly, when we established the Independent Commission here in California, he voted against it.
In 2020, as an Assembly member, Kiley voted no on Senate Bill 139, requiring larger counties to have independent redistricting commissions that's in addition to the already established statewide commission. Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed that bill. Kiley responded by saying he's always supported the Citizens Redistricting Commission created by voters, and that these bills were proposals offered by politicians, not voters, with their own interests in mind. Do you support banning or prohibiting mid-decade redistricting?
I would love to make sure that mid-decade redistricting doesn't happen in a way that's gerrymandered. I'd be cautious about an outright ban because we don't know what kinds of changes in the population might happen mid-decade.
But I think California voters know that the stakes are very high. They know that the Trump administration is coming for us one way or another, and that they're going to act to protect our democracy nationwide. Prop 50 is a good thing. I absolutely support doing it for all the reasons that I mentioned, including the fact that it's temporary.
In Sacramento, Jeannie Nguyen, ABC 10.
And make sure you tune in tomorrow because at 6:30 on To The Point, we are dedicating a half hour to the redistricting issue and its impacts to help you make an informed decision. Right after the break, we'll talk a little bit more about what you'll see in our special tomorrow. All right, so as we just mentioned before the break, tomorrow at 6:30 To The Point is dedicating our entire half hour to the redistricting issue. We're going to explain exactly what Proposition 50 is, what your yes and no vote really means. I'm sure you've probably already been getting some information in the mail. We're also going to take you out to District 1, talking to the incumbent, Doug LaMalfa, out there, and also some of the challengers in these districts who say that they're going to jump in if those maps pass. So it's something you don't want to miss. And of course, if you have any information or questions that you want to share with us when it comes to redistricting, please reach out to our team. I'll see you tomorrow.